Oh no, the day has come. I'm here to admit it. I don't think I like RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13. Hello friends and welcome to my channel. My name is EJ Marino, and if you've noticed, I did not review this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13. I have some issues with this episode, but my issues aren't just with this one episode, it's with this whole season. So in this video, I'm here to break down why I don't like this season, what feels different, and try to figure out what we could do going forward to make the fan base feel united again. It feels like we are in a divided family now, and I think we can meet in the middle somewhere, but I just can't get behind this season, and I want to figure out why. After this week's controversial double Shantae, it really hit me. This production, this season feels like a completely different Drag Race. There's something that I'm not connecting with. So for this video, I've decided to break it down to three main reasons. We have the productions, we have the changes to the show structure, and the challenges themselves. For each one of these big reasons, I have little individual issues I have within each one. We will also wrap this up by saying it's not the Queen's fault. There is a lot of talent here. It just feels like they got handed the wrong season. So yes, I can't believe after watching this week, and I'm like, what is happening? There is a lot going on that I do enjoy, but there's just so much hindering my viewing experience. And I'm not the only one. If you go to people like the channel Movie Bitches, they've decided to review UK 2 instead of going for the more traditional route. If you go into any comment section, you hear thoughts like mine. You see a lot of, well, this isn't my favorite season, or wow, there's a lot of producer meddling. It's just a kind of a common theme we've been seeing. But why? Why this season out of any season? Could it be the pandemic era filming? Could it be just the show is grown into something we don't know? Hopefully by the end of this video, we can figure out what the main issue is. We're gonna start off with the issues in the production itself. We have so much manufactured television. It's fairly obvious in some ways and kind of hidden in other ways. I think some of the more clear versions of it are when you have maybe Candy Muse as an example going, hey guys, do you want to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement? Or things like, what about the show Maury? Isn't that crazy? Like the cameraman running around. You just hear the producer literally going, hey, why don't you bring this stuff up to have conversations? It's obvious. I mean, I go back to that Kelly Mantle moment where she's talking about doing her makeup with Vivacious. I don't want to talk about this.
I'm like, Vivacious, what was your childhood like in Jamaica? And she's like, oh, mama, it was terrible. They tried to drown me in the ocean. I'm like, oh my God, that's so awful.
It's very apparent in those older seasons, but for some reason, this season has been produced so poorly that these are so obvious, and they're less they don't allow me to get engaged into the conversation. I'm having a hard time being like, yes, I want to talk about this subject because it's presented so poorly. You go to Drag Race UK 2 where you had the I believe it was Bimini and Ginny Lemon talking about being non-binary. They had a wonderful conversation and I really enjoyed it, and it was presented far more naturally than it was here. I would even go to this season has the Simone conversation about speaking about their brother being locked up, and I was just like, oh, that was a good conversation that felt it felt as natural as it could. But those aren't just the only production issues. You see the manufactured drama. You see the, oh my God, fight moments just to only have it resolved a couple hours later. Because if you go by the show's thing, it's only like an hour later, maybe a week later in the showtime, which you know it's just a few days. They're already making up. So it's like, what was the point of last week's drama other than to cut that into commercials to get me entertained or intrigued by what's going on? It's not working. I believe that RuPaul's Drag Race is starting to feel like other VH1 reality shows. I see the commercials for the shows that VH1 airs, and I would hate them. I would personally not like it. And Drag Race is starting to feel like one of those kind of basketball wives, one of those teen mom kind of shows, and I am not I am not there for that kind of show. And that's what's crazy. If I look at a preview of RuPaul's Drag Race, would I be interested in it now without any other context? Does it feel too much like a reality show where everyone's yelling at each other and there's drama for the sake of drama? That's what it's starting to feel like, and that's not the show I signed up for. Next up on my list of issues are the changes to production. I started noticing this back with All Stars 2, which is a season I like, and I do think it's enjoyable, but I was just like, oh, so we changed the structure of the show. Fine, it's All Stars, I understand. But then that started seeping into the regular show. Then that started going to each All Stars was like a whole different beast within itself. And I'm like, why are you changing what we love? Why ruin what wasn't ruined? That's the old kind of analogy of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, Drag Race was never broke, especially this season. Why did we start off with the strange, let's have everyone lip sync against each other, blah, 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 and then we had the pork chop queens. The pork chop queens, we're still talking about that shit this far into a season. We're like, oh, the winner circle still, oh, they're going home. Now I'm like, do y'all really care? Is that something we're really talking about? The people who got eliminated by RuPaul's choice, not because they were bad at what they do, because of a production choice? What? That is a narrative we've pushed this entire season. But going beyond the pork chop stuff, this season has had like 4, maybe a couple weeks, a handful of weeks with no eliminations. We have the ones that no one went home. We had the challenges where each group, the pork chop and the non-pork chop queens, did the performances. No one went home there. We had the double Shantae now. What is happening? Like, why is this show obsessed with keeping these people here for the sake of drama? Maybe because they want these queens to have more airtime, but I don't think their per diem really covers how many episodes they get onto television. I don't think that's how this kind of works. I think they get paid when they're on the show for, like, you know, any kind of compensation, and then afterwards with sponsorships, I don't think they get paid per episode, or I don't think they get more airtime, because the way these episodes are structured, there's some queens who are going into the background. Olivia Lux was in the background for most of the episodes until it caused for her to get put into a production, like, heavier spot. And now Rosé is another good example. Rosé is rumored to, like, do well for the rest of the show, but we really didn't get to fall in love with her the first couple weeks. It's a strange format, and I think they're trying to do something different, but do you guys want something different? When you go into Drag Race, do you want them to change up the way it's structured every season?
Clap if you care.
I think that's why we do like RuPaul's Drag Race UK 2, because it feels like a traditional season. There isn't the gimmicks. There isn't the, wow, we changed everything up. Isn't that crazy? And it's just like, no, I like Drag Race the way I like it. Maybe I'm too boring. Maybe I personally like Drag Race to just be a show where a bunch of drag queens wear awesome outfits, do fun challenges, wear crazy makeup, maybe do a little lip sync, maybe do a ball challenge that doesn't have 84 people. We will talk about that. But yeah, maybe I'm a weird traditionalist. Let me know if I'm crazy for thinking the changing of the structure doesn't work. I will excuse it for All Stars, but this season just isn't working, and I do believe it's the change of structure. I do believe it's the production. I also think it's the challenges. This season of Drag Race has had some of the most wonkiest challenges, and I'm not just talking about the weird mini challenges where it's like, let's wear wallpaper, which was cute, or let's dress up as a baby so RuPaul can promote her happy birthday song. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the actual main challenges. I'm talking about having a ball where there's 36 looks. What is happening there? This has been growing over the show where they're doing the balls earlier and earlier. I remember a couple of the Evie Oddly season, they had like the Halloween ball where they had a bunch of looks. Why? Why do you feel the need to have this much? It's not fair to the queens and their costumes. Can you tell me what Rosé wore in the second outfit in the ball challenge? No, you can't, but I can tell you what Alaska wore in the Candy Challenge in season 5 because there was a smaller amount of queens and I was allowed to focus on individual outfits and take them in. I just said in the last group that I love the fashion, I love the challenges, but it's how it's structured. It allows me to digest it properly. Do ball challenges when there's less people. I am glad this season waited to have Snatch Game because they were having it for a while where they had like 10 people doing Snatch Game, and I'm like, the same problem, too many people, I can't focus on it. Narrow it down or get better at producing your show so you can do equal opportunity to everybody, but the show will never do it. So I like these challenges like the ball and the Snatch Game when there are less people, so production can actually focus on the proper people and actually give time to these queens. But it's not just the ball. You also have things like the weird disco documentary, which wasn't a rusical, but which was a rusical, which I just thought it was so horribly laid out. It wasn't a documentary. It wasn't a dance challenge. It lived in the middle of nothing. It was a bad challenge. But you also had the weird rusical from last week that everyone hated. It was so bad. Why was social media the topic? Why was it handled the way it was? Why was like Simone not that bad in it and she decided to go? Why was Tina okay in it but they read her to filth? The judging is a whole its own issue as well. I think the judging for these challenges are wonky as well, but it's the actual challenges themselves. It blows my mind that I can't just fall in love with a challenge, any of them this season. I do think UK, not to keep maybe praising it, but it is the better season. Maybe also don't put two seasons on at the same time where we can compare and contrast. But you go to UK and it's just like the Rats Rusical was really fun. I really liked that one challenge where they both got the same box and they had to make different outfits from it. These are fun challenges that are interesting, that are easy to just understand, to grasp. There isn't a bunch of, well, we're also talking about disco this week, but let's go through the history. No, I don't. That disco one really frustrated me. That's where I knew the season was lost to the woods, because I was just like, this ain't it. But yes, I just watch these challenges and I'm not falling in love. Am I the only one? What do you all feel about the challenges from this season? Has there been one that stood out to you? Oh my god, don't even get me started on that Hallmark Channel challenge. That was so bad. I don't blame the queens for this season. I don't blame me not liking Candy Muse on just Candy Muse. I think the way the show is producing her is also not helping her either. She is coming off a little cocky and brash, but when Tamisha calls her out, you guys portray Tamisha as the villain in that situation and not Candy, because y'all like Candy because Candy's in that Drag Race family. She knows Alaska. She has connections to the show. I'm not dumb. I know how this works. Same thing with Got Mixed. She's popular in that like LA, California community. I've seen it happen from Detox. Oh, the LA people get nice treatment except for Mayhem. I wonder what the Mayhem issue was. Anyways, so yes, I see these queens and I like them. I just wish they had a better season. I wish they weren't dealt the pandemic situation is hard enough, but the actual season themselves, they're gonna get lost in the shuffle. This reminds me so much of when people hated season 7, which I don't think is that bad. Go back and watch it. The queens are great. The challenges were fun. It's not a bad season. This is going to be the bad season, but I go back to when people like season 7 and those queens got disrespected for a long time. I feel these queens are going to have the same thing. I feel like outside of the legacy, these aren't going to be the most memorable queens, and I'm upset about that. I think it's the show. I think it's how it's presenting them. I don't think there has been a clear-cut star this whole season. It should be Simone, but I feel like they don't love Simone as much as the fans are loving Simone. And it's people like Olivia Lux, it's people like Denali that the fans are really in love with, but the show's like, no, the producer's like, those aren't my favorite, these are my favorites. And I'm like, that's not how we produce television. This is starting to become The Bachelor, where the producers are picking their favorites and those are the ones who go forward and get the best edits. Oh my goodness. I need to calm down. This is too early in the morning for me to be this frustrated about Drag Race. So that is my Drag Race video that I've been kind of dragging my feet to make. I've been nervous to talk about it because it's hard admitting that one of your favorite shows is having a really bad season, but that's how I feel. I don't think the show is ruined forever. Who knows? It can come back for season 13, 14, 15 and be great. You could do RuPaul's Drag Race like a small village in Italy, and I would probably still watch it, but I want to like this season, and I don't understand why I'm not, and I want to figure out if I'm not the only one. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel. I'll still keep talking about Drag Race. I don't know if I'm going to review it every week. I'll take this week off because now that there's nothing, and I'll come back for Snatch Game and hopefully have a new energy. So alright guys, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, like I said, comment down below. Let's talk about season 13 and see if I'm the only one who's going crazy because of this.